I now recognize the gentleman from Tennessee for the purposes of an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding today's markup and for considering what I think is an important piece of legislation, the Filing Relief for Natural Disasters Act. I also do want to thank my colleague, Representative Chu, for joining me in introducing this bipartisan bill. My guess is most of the people on this dais have at some point seen their state and their own constituents impacted by a natural disaster or an emergency. My district, which is West Tennessee, has been hit by a number of natural disasters over the years, ranging from tornadoes to most recently major flooding. And of course, right now in East Tennessee, there are still many people who are grappling with the devastating aftermath of Hurricane Helene last year. For many Tennesseans, their lives have been greatly affected. Now, anyone who's toured a disaster area or spoken to victims or watched the damage from television or social media know recovering and rebuilding is certainly not easy, and it won't happen overnight. For so many impacted Americans, for families and communities, it's critical that they have timely access to the support, the resources, and the relief that they need to begin the recovery process and to start getting their lives back on track. This also includes regulatory relief, among other things. And for many taxpayers and small businesses, filing season can be laborious and it can be a time-consuming process. And that's why under the current law, the Department of Treasury has the authority to postpone certain tax filing deadlines for taxpayers affected by federally declared disasters. But the Treasury Department does not have the authority to provide filing relief following state-level declarations, which are typically issued immediately after a disaster. Federal declarations can take weeks or months before being issued, and that disparate treatment between federal and state-level declarations under current law can delay relief and create significant confusion for impacted taxpayers. And that's why Representative Chu and I introduced the Filing Relief for Natural Disasters Act. This legislation makes two straightforward common sense reforms to the IRS code that will ensure that disaster victims are able to receive timely relief. Specifically, this bill will authorize the Secretary of Treasury, in consultation with FEMA, to extend filing relief to taxpayers as soon as the governor of a state declares a disaster or a state of emergency. It will also expand the current mandatory filing extension following a federal declaration from 60 days to 120 days. I don't think there's any doubt that disaster victims have more important things to worry about than bureaucratic red tape at the IRS. This bill is bipartisan. It's certainly pro-taxpayer. It's certainly common sense that I believe will address a glaring flaw in our tax code. And with that, I urge our colleagues to support disaster victims in Tennessee and in California and across this nation by voting for this important piece of legislation.